How we doing? This is Johnny Concert. Welcome to the Johnny Concert podcast. And I got a special guest today. I call him Ledbelly. Ledbelly! And we grew up together in Denver, Colorado. He's seen probably maybe more shows than I have, but at least over 4,000, I'm sure of it. And so we're still talking about Led Zeppelin, picking up from last week. And so, Ledbelly, you got to start off with the story about the tickets you won on the radio for, was it Whole Lot of Love you were singing or something like that?
Oh, that's true. That's, okay, now I recognize the reference. You brought that up when you
won the second row tickets.
And, so I invited you up to see my second row tickets, and I was trying, when you brought that up, I'm like, how did I get those good tickets? It was at
the Universal Lending Pavilion.
And you're right. They had a contest on the radio. I was like, yeah, okay.
KVPI local station here.
Got through and finished the lyric. And
so, but wasn't it like, was it A Whole Lot of Love? You had to sing?
Yeah, trying to do
sing? It was, right?
Exactly.
And then they stopped it, and you had to keep going, you know? And so, you won the tickets.
I pulled that off, got me some nice...
That was beautiful.
One of the one-off shows at the
Universal Lending Pavilion.
What was that, Denver Lending Pavilion or something?
It was in the parking lot of the Pepsi Center in Denver, Colorado, and we used to make fun of it for a while, but then we realized it had like a tent over it, and the tent actually let them control the lights and the sound pretty well. So we were like, we're sitting in a parking lot next to the railroad tracks, but then it started sounding pretty good there.
Yeah.
And that was a great show. But here's the other funny part was I was delivering wine for a living back then, and I was driving around delivering wine, and I actually heard him on the radio. And so he said, "Okay, we're going to stop the Whole Lot of Love, and then you got to keep singing it." And he's singing it. I was like, "Is that Ledbelly?" I actually recognized his voice, and then sure enough, he called me up and said, "Yep, that was me, second row tickets."
So that's what everybody thought I was notorious for back before the millennium, if it were. Yeah. Because I was great at calling in and getting there. And I would go to the radio station and say, these people didn't pick up their tickets. They'd hand them right to me.
That's beautiful.
At 5:30 when they closed, if the show was coming up and they hadn't picked up the tickets, I was out there.
Sure.
So that was a methodology for making
I used
music
to know
happen.
One of the DJs that would be at the KPI tent at Fillmore, and it was every single time somebody didn't show up for their tickets that they won.
Yeah.
And he'd give them to Todd, my buddy Todd, to me, Todd.
But the whole idea is this is Led Zeppelin we're talking about.
This is Led Zeppelin, dude. This is a big deal.
Where it started for me, I was, in ninth grade or something, trying to go to concerts, seeing people that go to concerts, recognizing that this is where I want to be.
Absolutely.
And didn't have the capabilities, but my second show was Robert Plant's show.
That's incredible.
I sat in my car overnight at the Dave Cook Sporting Goods.
We used to sleep out all night at Dave Cook.
In the morning to be first in line and get some great shows. And that was the show.
That was the show. You got the jersey, the old jerseys.
Robert Plant's first solo tour.
Pictures at 11. Pretty badass.
What it was, we grew up recognizing there's so much great music of the 70s.
Oh, man.
And
much.
I got into Zeppelin immediately. It was my first album I ever bought. Well, second album I ever bought was the Led Zeppelin Live. So, that was imminent for me. And to be able to see a member, I thought, I was floored when John Bonham died.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was like, oh, my God, we lost that opportunity.
I was a little too young to quite, I don't remember like the day it happened or anything, but I remember, why is Led Zeppelin not put out another album? Wait a minute. What the hell? It was. They say he drank 47 vodka drinks that night. Oh my God!
The rock and roll lifestyle, the whole thing of that time period,
died of a hard living.
Everything about Led Zeppelin was what my parents were against.
Exactly.
So
they were throwing pool tables out of windows. They said at the whiskey they had their own table that was so deep because there'd be girls underneath sucking their dicks while they ate dinner. That's how big time Led Zeppelin got.
I got to get back into those. The Richard Cole book is a good one, and
they got
there's a whole lot of
the old Hammer of the Gods book.
A lot of literature on that
But that was the other thing too. We didn't have the computers growing up, so we had to do our own research. You know, we when you listened to albums, we read the back of the album. We'd study, like we'd go down to the producers, the special guests, the mixers. You know, we didn't just like listen to the album. We were studying it too.
Exactly.
And then we'd go to we'd get Hit Parader magazine, and we'd get Guitar magazine, and whatever it was, and we'd read that cover to cover because we were so into it. And so that's why, you know, we got a little bit of knowledge on this
stuff. Amazing how much people miss.
Well, I think youngsters nowadays, they train their brain to not remember because why would they? They could just Google it. So they don't have to work for it. We had to work for our knowledge. And so we've got a little bit of it. So, but now let's go back to the beginning though. Why do they call you Ledbelly?
Oh, well, that's a great story. In college, I was taking a history of music course. I had to do an insane project, which was an oral project, written essay, this and that, and the other thing about whatever topic I chose. And I chose work music, field music. And,
okay.
You know, out in the field, people that was indigenous, they pass it on from generation to generation.
The music they're singing while they're working, you mean?
And that's actually the derivatives that we enjoyed as what became blues music, and that.
Sure.
Developed into rock and roll.
There's a little bit of gospel in there, and yeah.
It was a big project for me, and I had a book about a gentleman named Ledbelly, who was a freaking
old
blues singer
guy,
who had made some marks, but he wound up going to prison for killing a guy. So
that's going to put a damper on your career.
He's in prison, and he takes his guitar somehow the warden knew he was a musician, and convinced him to actually sing a song for his old lady. The warden was having problems with his old lady, so Ledbelly helped him with his old lady.
Okay.
Gave him a pardon on a life sentence.
You got to be kidding me.
So I'm doing these research.
Wow, it pays to be a guitar player, let me tell you.
He got out on another charge in Texas. That was in Angola. But yeah,
that's wild
I was
stuff.
doing some research, reading the transcripts. And my buddy from Bayonne, New Jersey, he goes, oh, I'm doing like a voice, like a freaking dialect, if you will, of pretending I'm Ledbelly. So that's how I adopted it.
Well, do you love Led Zeppelin so much? You fit right in too.
But yeah, then I go and talk to Uncle Nasty in the morning one day, and they call me early Monday morning, say you're going to Europe to go see Page and Plant.
No way! I forgot about that.
And I'm like, okay, 5-day trip to England.
Wow.
125 bands. The freaking headliners, Page and Plant.
That's
Monster
incredible.
Magnet was the first band I got to see.
Monster Magnet, good band.
And Page and Plant, Garbage.
You got to fly to England?
Yeah, 5-day VIP status, dude. It was so bad. It was like a 7-Eleven Coca-Cola Slurpee thing.
Yeah.
Greatest show on the planet.
Oh
Same
my
weekend
God.
as Leeds Festival, so back and forth they
Live
go.
at Leeds? Wow.
And
what year was
plays
that?
Leeds one day, and they come to Reading Festival.
Okay.
And that was 1998.
Legendary.
1998, and I got to
98.
see Beastie Boys was the final headliner.
Oh my God.
And I was wearing my John Elway jersey, riding the crowd for like a dozen times easily, like
that's 100
why I've got
Ledbelly
feet or
on
more.
the show today, because that's a legendary story.
Yeah, wow. Rock and roll lifestyle.
That's as rock and roll as it gets, man.
Yeah.
And so it was Page and Plant. Like, which tour was that one?
1998. That was
1998? So it was.
What do they call it? It was like their second world tour.
One?
It was another world tour like that one. Yeah, pretty much. 95 they came out, or 96 with that first one where they had the whole orchestra.
Sure, for Kashmir, of course.
And then
you gotta have the orchestra.
And that evolved into a secondary tour in that later, like 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how many
and they played McNichol's Night, both tours. They played Red Rocks the second tour.
This is for the McNichols show.
And I got to see I was in England, and 2 weeks later I got to see him at Red Rocks.
I don't remember if I was at the Red Rocks one, but I know I was at the Fiddler's Green where they had the Colorado Symphony at the end playing Kashmir, which was fantastic. I mean, with all those strings, you go yeah,
they had like an international orchestra. Well, they were from Morocco, I believe. But
okay, that's international.
Yeah, they had they brought them on tour, and it was amazing. Like.
I mean,
one of the best. That was the first time I'd actually seen Page with Plant. but I had actually witnessed.
Well, yeah, The Firm. You saw The Firm, right?
The Firm.
That's
after
right.
that,
A lot of people
second
don't remember
show of
that.
my life was Robert Plant.
Radioactive, down.
Watching Jimmy Page come out and test his equipment, like I'm standing next to the stage at McNichols Arena, and there's Jimmy Page, and I'm like, what?
That's him.
How
right
did
there,
this happen? I never figured that would happen because I was, born in too late. Basically, they started 2 years after I was born.
Led Zeppelin. Yeah. Well, they kind of started the year I was born, '68. So yeah, we never got that. I mean, people always talk about you could go back in time, see one band, who would it be? Yeah. Jimi Hendrix is a popular.
There you go.
Popular point, but I would say Led Zeppelin for sure.
Exactly. These people brought something that people didn't expect. It wasn't on the pop charts or whatever. It's something you're like, whoa.
Charts. It was not.
It's just like bringing it, like you mentioned Hendrix. It's just like
bringing it
to another level.
A whole other level. It was fantastic, and it had the mystical out. It had the straight ahead hard rock, but it had kind of the mystical, side to it. And it was just every single piece fit together because they were all in Jimmy Page's head, and then he just explained it to the other two, and Robert Plant just went on over the top.
Well, and then that came, that was with the Paul Rogers.
Paul Rogers, one of the best frontmen of all time. I don't care what anybody says.
Serious
such a great frontman.
He did the bow solo with the, Les Paul with the freaking Pyramid of Lasers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just...
I was not at that show, I'm embarrassed to say.
Crazy
The Firm,
cool.
I'm a radioactive. Tony Franklin on drums?
Yeah, Tony Franklin on bass.
Oh, on bass. Wait.
Chris Slade on drums.
Okay. Thank you. And
that was a great group, and I got
hell of a group, super group. But
I wish I would have seen the second when they came on their second. It was the second album that they toured on. I think actually.
I think it was. I think they only played Denver one time, if I recall.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I missed that one.
I was in Florida, and I got to talk to a guy that got to see that tour too. And good memories.
So Paul Rogers,
really
Bad Company played with Lynyrd Skynyrd. We were at that show about 5 years ago, maybe. Was it before COVID?
Oh, yeah.
Probably like right before COVID.
Yeah, it was like 2019.
So it was probably like 2018, 2019. And it was Paul Rogers came out. It was still the same drummer.
Oh, my God.
For Bad Company.
Yeah.
It was then it was not the original guitar player. It wasn't, but it was the one that's been there for 25 years or something
it seemed
like that,
like it was a
years.
very original group.
It was pretty original.
I saw the Bad Company back in, at the Adams County Fairground.
Sure. With
Charlie Daniels, Tony Tucker, a bunch of stuff in a rainstorm. And of course, they had a different singer at that time. But
man, we've been so lucky to see some good shows. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Well, we got to give a little tip of the cap to Barry Fay because bands used to actually skip Denver because they didn't think they were going to make enough money. And then Barry Fay made a place called the Rainbow Music Hall. And before that, he had a place called the Family Dog. But he would call these managers of these bands up, and he'd say, okay, I know you guys are planning on skipping us, but check this out. Come see my new, I tooled the sound from a company called Dallin Sound. He said, I got it just so, and you're going to love it, you're going to make money, and I guarantee it. So these managers said, okay, we'll take a chance. And they brought their bands here. And then from then on out, he formed this bond with these bands, like The Who. The Who actually played there. And Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend, every time from then on out, they'd call Barry directly, say, oh yeah, we're playing Denver, whatever. Barry's going to be the promoter, and it's the way we're doing it. And
way before our time. We never got the witnesses.
No, not quite. But actually, Tangent is Fiddler's Green, one of our great amphitheaters.
Sure, that was
that was a great one. But they had a party for the Family Dog 2 summers ago. And it was they redesigned 3 dressing rooms. It was for charity. So they designed 3 dressing rooms, one like Jimi Hendrix, one like Janis Joplin, and one like Pigpen from the Grateful Dead, because all those people had played at the Family Dog. Nice. It was only open for 1 year. Was it 73 or 69? I can't remember now. It's got to be 69.
Yeah, Janis played there. 69. The Doors played there.
And the Doors, Janis, Pigpen, and Jimi Hendrix. And so they auctioned off all the stuff in the dressing rooms. And then they had the guy. There was a guy there who was like 85 years old. He was the theremin player, and he would sit in with the bands when they played there. He set up the equipment, and then he had a theremin. And when the bands would play, they'd say, "Okay, we got so and so on the theremin," and he'd play with the bands each band. And he was so cool. This guy had the best stories, and he was actually had a theremin there, and he did a little demonstration for us. It was so cool. And then Jeremy Fay, Barry's son, was there. Barry passed away a while back, and so. But Jeremy Fay was there, and then Chuck Morris was there, who's Barry Fay's direct directly underneath Barry Fay. They worked together in the early years promoting, and now Chuck's president of AEG. I believe he's still president of AEG. And so they were all there. It was a fantastic party. And who would do that? I mean, nobody. It was just, oh, man. It was quite an homage to Barry.
That reminds me is Led Zeppelin was not actually on the original bill when they actually, if I'm not mistaken, they were added to the bill here in Denver for their very first show in America.
Spirit and Vanilla Fudge.
Because of Barry Fay.
Spirit, yeah, because of Barry Fay. I was talking about that last week. Spirit with Randy California and Vanilla Fudge, I believe, was before Bad Company, right?
Right.
It was a guitar player for Bad Company.
Well,
and it was.
I'm not sure if they were both at the same show. There's like the debate on which one it was.
No, it was all three. It was there. Led Zeppelin opened is what I've read.
Okay.
Is what history books show.
Led Zeppelin opened for
Led Zeppelin, Spirit, and then Vanilla Fudge.
And Vanilla Fudge was the original story I heard.
I think they had Carmine Appice on drums.
Yeah.
And they had the guitar player. What's the name of the guitar player that became? Then he formed Bad Company with Paul Rogers right after that.
I don't know.
Well, because I remember Paul Kossoff was for free.
Right? He came from that band, huh?
But yeah, he came from Vanilla Fudge. We gotta look that up.
I mean, what's really lacking in this discussion is the John Bonham element.
The John Bonham element. We got to go back to it. I mean, maybe perhaps the best drummer of all time. Definitely
and
one
that's
of the top
where he cut his teeth on that tour, watching Vinny Appice.
I'll bet. Carmine Appice.
Or Carmine.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and we still got to figure out if it's pronounced Appice or Appice. I still don't know which one it's pronounced.
And they are brothers, I imagine.
They are brothers. You know that.
That's
you know
kind of where I.
What else with Carmine Appice? I think he played with Jeff Beck too, and then he played with another great band, King Cobra, and then he played with another band too. He's just phenomenal.
Yeah, he was in a bunch of groups there.
But John Bonham, I mean, they say now. Correct me if I'm wrong. They say because they didn't have double bass pedals back then, right? And he only had one bass pedal. But it sounds like there's a double bass pedals on some of his songs.
At one point,
but I think he just moved his foot twice as fast as everybody else.
At one point, he was using it like the cutting edge version of what they had at the time, and they took it away from him. The rest of the band, while he was distracted at rehearsal, they hid it from him.
Okay. Well, because he almost always had one foot on the hi-hat with the tambourine on it, right?
Yeah.
He always had one foot on that. So the other foot, I think he just moved his foot twice as fast as everybody else. And so you thought it was a double bass pedal.
Yeah, he's legendary for his foot action. It inspired so many drummers, including myself.
Oh, heck yeah.
To actually, do it. Because I was told I couldn't play drums. I got lessons at music, but anything but drums, I was told. So yeah,
I'll show them.
I threw papers for 3 years to buy myself some freaking drums.
That's right. I'll show them.
Couldn't keep them in my house, and it was because of John Bonham. So
man. Well, we're at the Alley Studios in Denver, Colorado, and our producer guy that owns the studio, he actually had a replica drum set of John Bonham's at the old studio. It was just he put it. I don't know if he had the gong, but he had
the exact Vistalites.
Oh, it was fantastic, super cool. But yeah, John Bonham. It's just like one time Robert Plant said something like 153 pounds of glory or something like that. He was a little dude. Yeah. And then his son Jason Bonham always says, what's crazy is he was just a sheep farmer, dude. He'd be at the pub with other sheep farmers talking about sheep. Yeah. But also he happened to be the best drummer of all time in a hard rock band.
Jason did a tour where he had like home video and he did a diatribe about the family life. It was amazing.
You see him walking with those big waiter shoes, walking through shit, to sheep shit.
Yeah. He
was a sheep farmer, for Christ's sake.
He's down to the earth kind of guy.
How the heck? He's a real dude, man. He's a real guy. But he, how does it get any better than that?
I guess the compounding pressures of touring and.
Well, it's the 70s, dude. You go into you get. No one's handing you drugs. You got drinks everywhere. It's the 70s, and drugs weren't really frowned upon. Everybody was doing cocaine in the 70s. It wasn't like you got to hide in the back to do the cocaine. Not really. Any studio.
I was thinking about that today when he approached me about this. I'm like, wow. So much to actually visit on that.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have to we're doing a whole series.
Hardly a witness, but,
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we still got the 80s. I mean, we were. I don't know. I feel like I was there almost.
It's really the roots, though. Led Zeppelin is where it came from. There's so many people inspired to. It was our version of, the 60s. Everybody went Beatles nuts.
Yeah, right.
Or Elvis nuts or whatever.
It is our Beatles.
So
even though I think still kind of tend to say Deep Purple invented hard rock.
It was before my time, to be honest. So
it was before our time, but I still don't feel like it was.
And they're still playing. I will still go out of my way to go see them.
That was the beauty of Page Plant, because we got to feel like we were seeing them almost, you know? We knew it wasn't quite there.
Oh, man.
But it was Page Plant. They did some really good job on some really good tours. So so after the Firm, Robert Plant would play 2 nights at Red Rocks every summer. And each time, because he had some great solo albums, so he'd play a lot of solo stuff. But at the end, he'd always play at least 2 Led Zeppelin songs. But he'd mix them up. Each night, he'd play 2 different Led Zeppelin songs. So we went both nights every time. So that was at least 4 summers, maybe 5, that we saw him both nights every time. And it was when he would, at the end, when we would start getting drunk, because Red Rocks let you bring in as much booze as you wanted. They didn't care. And you could bring in as much drugs and booze as you wanted. So we'd be smoking pot.
General admission, the whole.
General admission. So we call it the Run for the Roses. They'd line you up at the bottom of this big, Red Rocks is almost kind of in the foothills of Denver. Denver going up to, it's in Morrison, Colorado, but it's Denver going up to the mountains. And so it's like high altitude, and it's also this lower parking lot. You got to run up this long, winding ramp to get into the venue. And so they lined us up at the bottom, and it was time to pick up the gate. You ran up there with your cooler as fast as you could to get out in the front sections. So it was a whole experience at Red Rocks.
We'd sit there all day on that ramp.
We'd sit there all day, exactly. We'd be on the ramp the whole day, and then we'd run for the roses, they called it. So then we...
when they let you in, everybody's like...
Well, we were already drunk before they even opened started the show by any means, you know? So then, so at the end of the show, when he starts playing Led Zeppelin, we're just like, whoa. I remember Immigrant Song one night. I remember Four Sticks. I remember one night. I remember you did one of the more ballady tunes one night. It was a Tangerine or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I remember all of those. And
I was there for his first show there when I actually have a recording of him saying, "I've never been here."
No way.
And it was the 4th of July.
Really?
Probably 1990s or probably earlier.
Wow.
87, I think.
That's incredible.
And he's like, ladies, help me out Independence Day. He didn't recognize. But yeah,
you stuff your pants with lemons, then invite the ladies to squeeze.
He played Black Country Woman, and he played...
nice.
What was it?
It's hard to remember all of them.
Segments of Levy.
Yeah, okay. I remember when you did an Immigrant Song, and people went nuts. They lost it. We lost it, man.
Yeah, he made a point not to actually play Led Zeppelin. No, he's moving on.
Because his solo stuff's excellent, man. I love those solo. I have every single album, and I play them often still.
But yeah,
but then at the end, he'd always play 2 songs.
People would go ape shit.
We'd lose our minds because they're the best band of all time.
We're up at second row. I invite you to come see him.
That was fantastic.
And that's like. And then it just keeps moving. He's still out there. This is 30 years ago we're talking about.
I do have a confession to make, though, because what's your favorite Led Zeppelin song?
I like What Is and What Should Never Be.
What Is and What Should Never Be.
My first favorite Led Zeppelin song.
Sail away deep inside. Yeah. So the wind won't blow. Really shouldn't go.
Yeah, it's got a lot of dynamic.
That's a great answer. Mine is No Quarter, especially the song remains the same version of No Quarter. And one time, so Robert Plant played with a band called the Shapeshifters, and they were like this kind of like this hippie band where they were sitting on carpets and playing bongos and acoustic guitars and stuff. Which like whatever. But then they were sitting there, and I was up at the Fillmore in the balcony, and I used to go to the VIP section, and there was like the front of the stage was here, and the curtain, and we were actually kind of behind it. So we're looking down at his guitar tech, and you're seeing like a side view. And they played No Quarter, and halfway through I booed them.
I do recall.
They were doing this little whiffy little fucking. I mean, when that guitar kicks, a different
arrangement than
hurdy-gurdy. And it was like this acoustic thing. I'm like, boo! And his guitar tech looked up at me like, really, dude? I'm like, yeah, this is bullshit, dude. You cannot do that to No Quarter, man. I actually booed Robert Plant, who's one of my heroes. But that night, I just had to let him know how I felt.
Yeah, easy on that.
I was probably drunk at the time.
They did that hurdy-gurdy arrangement when they came out with the No Quarter. I was just watching that yesterday.
Okay.
When they did the acoustic thing on MTV.
Okay.
They came out way before even before the '95 tour. They came out on MTV with the No Quarter recording. It was like a whole set of acoustic.
Wow.
And that was really cool. And it was a whole different arrangement.
Well, but Jimmy Page did it?
The no quarter with the hurdy-gurdy and all that.
Well, what's the hurdy-gurdy? I can't remember.
It's that like twisty thing.
Oh,
like,
sure. But was it Jimmy Page?
Yeah, Jimmy and Robert.
So Jimmy does it.
And it's just
it's going to still going to work.
It was the first time they introduced that new arrangement.
Interesting.
Basically.
What'd you think of it?
And it was probably different than the one you're referring to.
It was different than what I referred to. It wasn't Jimmy Page.
Most definitely.
If Jimmy Page had done it, I would have loved it.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
He wouldn't have done it if he didn't do it the right way. I would love it. Yeah. You know? But I mean, I just couldn't.
But you're right.
It hurt my feelings, dude.
When it comes down to it, no quarter is an essential piece for anybody that wants to examine.
You kidding me? The live version of No Quarter.
About.
They just go into this jam session. That's just
it's
wow.
a John Paul Jones showcase.
John Paul Jones.
And every time they did it live, it was a fucking different song.
It was just, but this was something special.
In the mid part.
The middle part, right? There's two main verses, and then in the middle, it's like free for all.
Yeah,
and Jimmy
each tour
Page
was
just
different.
Goes off.
Each time they did it on tour.
But what's amazing is they were so on the same page. They were so in sync. They were so tight that it doesn't matter what Jimmy Page did. The other two knew exactly what to do, man.
Oh, I know.
They just did. They were reading each other's minds at that point. You know, it's just. I think they're the best band of all time. Who do you think is the best band of all time?
Well, in my humble youth. For sure, it was what I wanted to.
Do you still think
examine, and I still have no qualms about it. You know?
Yeah, no qualms whatsoever. And I still watch Sorry Raise the Same all the time, like once a month, easy. I put that thing back on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never not going to be amazing.
Yeah,
it's just that good. They
were an amazing band. The legacy is not for naught.
So after we saw, we saw Robert Plant solo ones, and then. So then what happened after that? Was there more Page Plant after that? There was, because the Fiddler's Green was after the Red Rock shows. Couple.
Yeah, that's when I went to that later tour. In fact, that was before the Page and Plant when whatever.
Oh yeah, okay. That was probably the kickoff of Page and Plant.
I mean, it seems to me it was after the tributes or whatever.
I wonder what this T-shirt is. Let's see here. I wonder what's this one say on the back.
Of course, there was.
This one's got a little wear and tear on it. 25 years of Zeppelin.
Yeah, I've got a Red Rocks one that's similar to that.
Have a year U.S. tour,
83.
95.
Or 87, right?
Yeah, 95. So, yeah, that's that one was so good.
Well, but there's no question about it. It's still in the discussion. Led Zeppelin had pretty much.
They had it all.
They were working to make something new, you know.
I mean,
they provided what people liked, so it was against the critics. Critics didn't like it much.
It was nobody knew what to think about it at first, but especially when Stairway to Heaven came out, they're like, "Wait, what's this now?" Because everybody already fell in love with the band, and then to think about even like the first two albums are straight ahead hard rock, pretty much a little bluesy in there. It's just Since I've Been Loving You stuff, but then think about that's actually album 3. I take it back, Led Zeppelin 3,
right?
Which
they
was
kept
eclectic shit, dude. Since I've Been, I mean, they just like
Led Zeppelin doesn't let you know what they're gonna do.
It doesn't, and you can't predict it. So Led Zeppelin, first 1 and 2 is straight ahead hard rock. Number 3, I mean, it opens up with the Immigrant Song, straight ahead hard rock. I mean, just legendary. And I mean, what a riff!
The rest of it is
still to this day
black country music, as they like to call it.
But then Tangerine and That's the Way.
That's the Way.
I mean, that's totally different stuff on Led Zeppelin 3. But at that point, they could do no wrong. Every single thing they did was amazing, and you approach it with a positive. You just knew it was going to be amazing, so you were just ready to be amazed, and then they amazed you.
And that's the
thing.
Then
they kept doing it.
There was a anticipation, just like the Beatles era, where like something's coming out.
Dude, you hear there's an album coming out, you're like talking about it. Can you imagine how excited people? I mean, we were a little too young at that point, but
I get it.
They were that.
I remember the last album coming out. So
okay, but think about Led Zeppelin 4 then, and then so they're doing the Black Dog right off the bat, and the drum beat's like off kilter from the main riff,
Yeah.
If you're trying to air drum right off the bat, you'd be off.
Yeah,
it was
not an easy play.
It was not easy to play, but then Stairway to Heaven hit, and everyone's like, wait a minute. we're still amazed now because we didn't see this coming. Why does it start so mellow? But it just was so you're just so involved, from the beginning. You're just like, okay, then what's gonna happen? It's like a story, like some guy, great storytellers telling you a story. You're like, then what happened? You're just like waiting.
If you listen to Led Zeppelin, the Zoso album.
Yeah,
that's
Zoso.
That's where
we're still trying to figure out what that means.
It's almost their real hallmark, but.
Well, what's this
podcast? It
goes?
has the Stairway and Rock and Roll and Black Dog. And they played incessantly.
Well, then of course you get your four sticks and your levy breaks with the drums on those. Back to John Bonham. The drums.
Going to California.
The drums were just going to California. So you got your mellow ones, you got your Battle of Evermore, you got your Lord of the Rings. Kind of spooky, but then you get your four sticks and during the levy breaks, and some of the best drumming you've ever heard in your life. You just can't even believe it.
Yeah, Levy.
Here
it comes full circle, right?
That comes full circle. But I was
talking
what it's
all about. I was
talking about that last week.
Sound.
Did you remember how they recorded that? The levy drums?
Yeah, like he's up high and they had the in the stairwell kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like fucking.
They were in the castle.
It was like 20 feet above the microphone.
They were in the castle. They ran the microphones down this tunnel, down this hall. Yeah, exactly, dude.
I tried to visit that when I went to England. That was one of my things.
That should have been on the VIP.
In fact,
package.
I almost asked. I got to meet Robert Plant.
Oh my God, dude!
And it was I'm sitting there. Hey, sign my thing, and I don't have a pen.
Just whip out your dick.
And then next thing when I got back, there's like 20 people ready to sign my shit.
I was here first, motherfuckers.
And luckily,
what did he say? Did you talk to him?
I got a picture of him signing a gigantic poster of the Hermit.
Yeah.
And with my old lady in the background.
Okay.
And he's just like, I wanted to ask him, can I go visit, John's grave or something like Headley Grange. That was my biggest thing. I wanted to find out where Headley Grange was.
Sure.
But
that's the whole thing.
I got no dialogue because there was like all these people lined up to talk to him.
If only you'd have brought a pen, Ledbelly.
Yeah. I ran over to the tent.
Always have pen ready to go.
I was in the VIP section, so was he. There was the VIP tent right next to us.
Oh, I forgot.
So the guy was like, "Oh, you wanted to meet Robert Plant? He's right there."
I
was like, "Boom! I just got this poster. I got to get this signed."
Dang it.
Super cool.
I messed up the thing anyway.
But I totally adopted that thing since Johnny calls me Ledbelly, and I absorb that every day, baby.
It's our buddy James Gay. You say Ledbelly whenever you see him from 20 feet away or whatever it was.
Nothing wrong with that.
I love it, man. That's because this dude's a bad motherfucker. So we announce it. We announce him walking in. When he walks in, we announce it.
Yeah, buddy.
But he's concert royalty, man. So we gotta get this one thing out of the way. We gotta get off our chest though. Alison Krauss. I mean, what the fuck is going on there? Come on, dude. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Led Zeppelin's music is so ubiquitous. It's so universal. It's so. It's like it doesn't even belong to them anymore. It belongs to the universe. It belongs to us. It belongs to us, dude. And they owe us a Led Zeppelin tour.
As lifelong music lovers, we look for more progressive things, and this is more primal, I think, when it comes down to it.
It's got the primal element and the progressive element, because Stairway to Heaven, who would argue that's not progressive?
I mean, when you're talking super primal, Krauss collaboration.
Oh, come on, man. So here's the thing is they had just played, they had played at the O2 Arena a few years before that with Jason Bonham, who by all counts is as good as his father. Some people say he's even better than John Bonham.
Oh, I love seeing him.
And so he was ready to go, and they could have toured. And Robert Plant said, "No, I'm going to go hang out with Alison Krauss instead." It's like, Robert, what are you doing, dude? Yes,
exactly.
You owe us a Led Zeppelin tour, and those other three guys were ready to go.
That reminder does.
It's like, dude, you can still fuck her if you don't have to tour with her. You can still fuck her on the side. Just tour with Led Zeppelin. Come on, guys, what's going on with this?
Sad,
So that's my only complaint about.
Robert.
Like, come on, dude. They owe it to us, is the way I see it, man. It's our music.
Jimmy needs some work too.
They still could do it, dude. They could still do it. That's why I'm putting out this appeal.
Jimmy Page produced all that Led Zeppelin music.
Please, guys.
And you're going to hear some more. So
I guarantee you, Jimmy Page, they can all still do it. I can promise you they can. And so, I mean, they proved that. I think it was 07. Was it 07? When they played two nights at O2 Arena. And they killed it. By all accounts, they killed it both nights. But so that's good.
Left us wanting for more.
I mean, they're good.
That's where we're at now, baby.
I still haven't given up hope.
Led Zeppelin will never
I say
die.
a prayer each and every night to the gods. So, but let's talk about how the West Was Won DVD. You have that DVD? How the West Was Won. I mean, I remember when I put the second one on, the second disc on. There's stuff on that disc that unless you were at the concert, it's like when they toured on Presents. Unless you were at that concert, you have never seen this footage. I mean, 30 years later, 20 years later, you've never seen that footage unless you were at that show. And it's like, wait, where are they hiding this the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
And Jimmy Page is all dressed up. And he's got a Fender Jaguar.
They never released any footage back in the day. They never released
it, dude.
Back in the day, the song remains the same was the only thing you could see.
So 30 years after Led Zeppelin broke up, they wowed us again. They found a way to wow us from beyond the grave. John Bonham found a way to wow us. And I was watching that stuff. I'm like, dude, this is like getting a new Led Zeppelin album almost, you know, because they're playing Nobody's Fault But Mine and stuff like that. And we've never seen it. Man. Yeah,
it's hard to absorb when you actually look at it.
I still have to watch it like 10 more times before I've watched it a handful of times, but it's still like new, you know?
I know. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's it. Note to self, put on How the West Was On tonight. It's like DVD too.
Production values.
But if you remember, Jimmy Page was playing a Fender Jaguar. That badass blue Fender Jaguar, which I don't, he's not known for playing that. He's always been a Les Paul guy, of course.
I know, right?
And or the Gibson guy, yeah, because of course the double neck, you know.
Yeah,
the EDS 12. No, it's a SG EDS 1275 is the name of that guitar. The EDS 1275. Never forget that. The 16 and the 12 string.
Oh yeah, the big double neck.
Double neck, dude. Come on, how legendary is that? They just kept doing shit that was just so freaking cool.
After the 70s, he played Gibsons, basically. But yeah,
he always played Gibsons.
Led Zeppelin, too, he was on a Telecaster. And
that's Gibson.
DiMaggio's.
No, not Telecaster, but the Gibson SGs and the Gibson Les Pauls. He was always a Gibson guy, yeah. So, but anyway, that's like when How the West Was Won came out, it was like, we were having Led Zeppelin all over again, dude. Here we go again. And it was fantastic, man. It still is fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, you got to check it out because it's just like, wow. You thought you knew everything about Led Zeppelin. Well, you'd listen to them all through the 80s. I
tried to get tickets for that show.
all through the 70s, all through the 80s. And you think you know every single thing about Led Zeppelin. Then boom, you've never seen this, have you, buddy?
Last show,
You've never seen that.
They did like a worldwide lottery.
Okay.
For tickets on that last the O2 show in
That's like winning the lottery. You want to think about the $10 million or you want the Led Zeppelin concerts? I'll take the Led Zeppelin concert.
Yeah, first to get in to even buy a ticket, and then you had to make it over there.
Like Willy Wonka or something like that. Yeah. You got the golden ticket, you know.
But yeah, I was all about it. I was like, I'm gonna go for it.
You got to go to England to see Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, that was fun as fuck, dude.
That is absolutely incredible.
And I met Robert Plant.
And you've had Uncle Nasty. I mean, how cool is that?
Well, of course.
Local DJ Uncle Nasty, we love him.
Yeah, we love the KBPI boys.
We love the KBPI. Willie B, of course, and Uncle Nasty, all those guys.
Yeah, gotta love KBPI for bringing the rock and roll all these years.
We had, remember those old commercials when we were growing up? Kate, they had the beautiful woman on there with just these nice rack and this little tiny tank top. She's like, KBPI rocks the rock. He's like a robot voice.
The classic. It was so
cool. It was a legendary commercial.
Who was that gal? She was like a
She was really cool. She was sexy.
Sister of somebody that was.
Then all of a sudden, this robot voice comes out of her mouth. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, he had to be there, but yeah,
had to be there. I guess you had to be there.
We'll dig up
the footage. I'll tell you what. We'll put it on the comments or something like that.
I mean, wow.
Well, let's wrap it up. We're going to keep talking about Led Zeppelin. We're going to go through each and every album one by one, and we're going to play snippets of it. And we got to check out
the music, right?
We got to check with my lawyer how much if we have a certain number of seconds we could play of each one, or how we do that. But we're going to go through each one and dissect them because they're just that good. But we're going to talk about other bands too. So keep tuning into the Johnny Country podcast. Thanks for watching.
Throw on the needle on some Physical Graffiti.
That's my first album I bought. Was Physical Graffiti and Deep Purple made in Japan. So anyway, thanks for watching. Johnny Concert signing off.